Hello, Bronco fans and football fans everywhere. Welcome to Broncos Breakdown. This is Wednesday, January 26th, 2022. I am your host, Bronco Bill. All right, guys, a couple weeks ago, I had a special guest in Mundungus Creevy from MHRT Network. And I would like to bring him back again for this show to get his insight on some very, very hot topics that the Broncos are dealing with in this offseason. So, Mundungus, welcome.
How's it going, man?
Good. How you doing, man? How's your week been?
We'll find out here when my wife gets off work. We'll find out how it's going.
Okay. Well, hopefully it goes well. I know you said you had some sick kids, and that's never fun. So thanks for joining me under the circumstance. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, I'll just let the sick kids watch the other kids, and it'll be fine.
Oh my goodness! Well, at least you have some older kids that can take care of the situation, so that's good. That's good. I promise I won't keep you longer than I don't know, a couple hours.
That's fine. That's fine. It's the best part is it's the older kids that are sick, so I'll let the sick kids watch the healthy kids, and then I'll let
that's
the
good.
younger
That's
kids
good.
get sick, and then deal with it all over again.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. All right. Hey, I just want to get in some hot topics that I came across this past week, and I really want to get your opinion on these topics. I value your opinion, and so that's why I wanted to bring you back for this. First off, the head coaching. George Payton has narrowed the search down to 3 candidates. Those 3 candidates are offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett from Green Bay, defensive coordinator from Dallas, Dan Quinn, and the Rams offensive coordinator, Kevin O'Connell. I have a tendency to think that it's going to be Dan Quinn because of his past history in being a head coach. But I'd like to know what your thoughts are on Hackett and O'Connell.
I mean, there's flaws with every coaching candidate. So, for example, Kevin O'Connell doesn't really call any of the plays. That's all Sean McVay. And I know that Ben Albright had covered it when he was on Broncos Country Tonight. But when you look at Kevin O'Connell, he does like the first 15 plays, like the scripted plays you have at the beginning of the game. Those are basically what he does. And when you compare the offense of the 15 plays to the unscripted plays, they go from like 17th to like 4th. So I don't know whether that means that they're trying to figure out what the defense is going to look like in those scripted plays, and that's why, which would make sense. But you kind of have some pause on that. Plus, he's a younger coach, doesn't have as much experience. And then you look at Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, there's a lot of good things to look at Nathaniel Hackett. At the same time, I know that he had a good run to the AFC Championship with Blake Bortles and the Jags. But when you look at what happened after that year, their offense dropped to 31st. So you don't really know whether you're getting the Blake Bortles-led Jags offense or whether you're getting the benched Bortles 31st ranked offense with Nathaniel Hackett. And like the same thing with Dan Quinn, there's some game management issues, time management issues that he's had in the past. So for me, it's definitely down to Hackett and Quinn. If I had to choose between the two, I would prefer to go Quinn, but I can definitely see him hiring Hackett.
All right. Well, if that's the case, let's say they go to, and I know you've mentioned this before, where it's not really the head coach that determines the play of the team. We all know that defensive coordinators do win Super Bowls with offense, and offensive coordinators do win Super Bowls with defense. That being said, if it's Hackett, does that automatically guarantee that Rodgers would come over? Because that's a couple other topics I want to get onto. But if Hackett is a choice, are we then going back to first time head coaches to try and make it work? I'm kind of inclined to go with Dan Quinn because of his history.
I mean, maybe. Luke Getsy, the quarterback's coach for the Packers, he has a better and friendlier relationship with Rodgers than Hackett does. So I
Hmm.
don't necessarily think that Hackett coming to Denver would would convince Rodgers to come to Denver. I think Green Bay is going to do that themselves because I mean when you look at Green Bay, they're gonna lose Hackett to somebody, whether it's Denver or whatever. They're going to lose
Hmm.
Hackett. Um, you're also looking at a team that's 45 million in the hole on the salary cap and has Rodgers to deal with, has Devontae Adams, has
Hmm.
Tanyan, has all these other defensive players that they have to resign. Otherwise, you're looking at a rebuild. And Rodgers has already said he will not be a part of a rebuild.
Right.
And so if Rodgers doesn't restructure his contract, there's no way that the Packers can afford him plus anyone else.
Right.
Um, they're 45 million in the hole on the salary cap, and that's without franchise tagging Devontae Adams. That's another 20 mil on top of that. Um, so I think Rodgers is probably just going to leave anyways because I don't think Green Bay can afford him.
Hmm.
Um, I forgot what the rest of the question was. I went off on a tangent.
No, that's okay. That's okay. No, the other question was, is it better to have Hackett because of Rodgers, or to take Dan Quinn because of his history as being a head coach?
Well, and that's the thing. Like when you look at and this is obviously ideal in what you're looking for in a head coach. What you want is someone that can be like, and I've said it before, like the
Hmm.
CEO of the team. They're the ones that have the coordinators that can run the offense and the defense and the special teams. They got the position coaches that can coach up the players, and then the head coach is the one that just oversees everything. So he doesn't specifically have a focus on either the offense or the defense, kind of like we had with Vance Joseph and with Vic Fangio.
Right.
And if you're looking at it from that perspective, you would think Dan Quinn would be the guy to do that because he's shown he is very, very, very good at picking coordinators. Um, I'm not saying that Hackett can't. We just don't know. He's never been a head coach before. And when you look at the history of coaches that we've had and the failures we've had, it's not because they were defensive coaches. It's because they were first time head coaches
Hmm.
and got in a bind and didn't know what to do.
Right.
Um, and so when you're looking at wanting to break the cycle of what we've had, you kind of lean towards Dan Quinn.
Hmm. Well, again, and that's what troubles me because if you bring in a Hackett or an O'Connell first time, like you said, we don't know what we're getting. We know what we're getting with Dan Quinn, but the thing with Dan Quinn with me is, does that mean we lose out on a Rodgers or a Wilson if Wilson comes out?
I don't think so. I don't necessarily, and again, I don't necessarily think that um, Hackett is the one bringing Rodgers away from Green
Right.
Bay. I
Right.
think that's Green Bay itself. Um, we also know that you're looking at Hackett and you're thinking, okay, well, we're going to get Getsy as offensive coordinator.
Mhm.
Well, Green Bay's already said that they're going to try to promote Getsy to offensive coordinator if Hackett leaves. So right there, you don't even know if you're going to get both.
Right.
Um, so I think when you look at Hackett, you have to set aside anything you want from Rodgers and just look at Hackett as head coach.
Well, then let me ask you a question. Why do you think the Broncos brought in Hackett for a second interview over Dan Quinn?
Well, it's not so much that they brought him in over Dan Quinn, it's they were able to schedule him before Dan Quinn. Because at the time that Nathaniel Hackett was coming in to interview, you had Dan Quinn interviewing with the Giants. Now he's got one with the Bears, and then they're going to have their interview with Denver. So it's not so much like the first one to come in is the first choice. It's he was the first one they could schedule.
Oh,
Because like
okay.
O'Connell, they can't even schedule until next week because
True.
of the playoffs. So it's not
True.
that he's their first choice. He was just the first one that was available to come in.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, that moves me on to let me touch on free agents because there's quite a few unrestricted free agents that the Broncos are dealing with. And I'm going to name a few. I've highlighted some. I mean, there's 17 in all, but I'm not going to name all 17. I'm going to name the first, let's see, I got on my list, first 6 or 7. And then if you want, I can go back to them individually and get your opinion. They are Kyle Fuller, Melvin Gordon, Bryce Callahan, Kareem Jackson, Teddy Bridgewater, AJ Johnson, Bobby Massey, and Stephen Weatherly. Those are the top 7 or so that I mentioned. And it starts from 9.5 million for Kyle Fuller all the way down to 2.5 million for Stephen Weatherly. Do you think the Broncos, obviously I don't think they can keep all of them, but of that list, who would you like to see Denver keep?
Well, first things first is Stephen Weatherly because he's my boy. I love him to death. I want him to stay. His name is the Mad Scientist.
Exactly.
That's what we call him on MHRT. So he has to stay. He has no choice. I hope you're listening.
Let's make a phone call to Payton.
That's right. As far as any other ones, I think the only ones that you need to concentrate on are Callahan and Gordon. Bryce Callahan has shown, he gets injured, but he's also shown that when he's on the field, he's top 1, top 2 for corners on the team. So I think Callahan should stay, deserves to stay. And honestly, Melvin Gordon. I mean, you had Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams both run for over 900 yards this year. Yep. Melvin Gordon was a touchdown machine, whether on the ground or in the air. I think he had something like 18 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Who are you going to get that's going to replicate 18 touchdowns in a year?
Oh, I agree. But there's talk. But there's talk that Gordon is a one and done. I've heard that on many different broadcast networks, whether it be NFL or in general or Broncos. I hope he stays. Absolutely, I hope he stays. But you did not mention Kareem Jackson. You don't want him back?
I don't. For the price that we're going to get him at, I don't think we need him. We've got Caden Stearns. I mean, Caden Stearns played the last 3 games of the season, and we didn't have any drop-off in the secondary or the safety play. We had a drop-off in the defensive line play with the running game, but when you had Caden Stearns in there, you didn't have a drop-off in the secondary. So I don't think you need to sign Kareem Jackson. Jackson was a good fit with Fangio. Same thing with Kyle Fuller. He was a good fit with Fangio in Chicago, not so much.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, you've got those specific guys that were brought in to fit a Vic Fangio defense, and you've got more flexible guys than Justin Simmons and Caden Stearns. Why bring back Jackson? We don't have to.
True. Well, there's 2 names I didn't mention, and I didn't mention them on purpose because their salary is under $1 million per year, and that is Josie Jewell at $793,000 and Kenny Young at $774,000. Are those 2 players ones that we should be targeting to keep because of their price tag?
Here's my problem. You've got so many inside linebackers now to choose from. When at the beginning of the year we didn't have any. Like I don't think Alexander Johnson comes back. Wow. Just because he's expensive, and you've got better options out there with Kenny Young, Jonas Griffith, and then you've got Josie Jewell. I think Josie Jewell has played well enough to come back. I don't think Kenny Young did. And I was a big fan of Kenny Young, but when you threw Jonas Griffith in there, you could tell that there was a difference in play. Kenny Young was good in certain aspects, but when it came to pass coverage, he was exposed a lot. Jonas Griffith was not. And Jonas Griffith is also younger. He was a rookie. So I think that we're probably going to end up rolling with Baron Browning, Josie Jewell, and Jonas Griffith. I think those are going to be our inside backers.
Yeah, I think those are good choices.
I forgot Bobby Massey. I think we should bring Bobby Massey back too. I was debating because there's Cam Fleming and he played well, and I don't know if we're going to draft one or if we're going to go and get what's his name, Ryan Ramczyk, is that his name, from the Saints?
Ramczyk, yeah.
He's the right tackle from the Saints. I don't know if we're going to trade for him. I don't know, but just to kind of hedge your bets, I would say bring Bobby Massey back too.
And you did mention Fleming, and he's on that list too as an unrestricted free agent.
So, if you bring Massey back, you don't bring Fleming back.
Right.
And I think Denver brings Calvin Anderson. I think he stays at left tackle, and then you kind of have your so that way you've got Bowles and Anderson at left tackle. You've got Massey and probably a draft pick at right tackle.
I would have to agree with that as well. Absolutely. Now, talking about earlier, Nathaniel Hackett with Green Bay, there's a website out called betonline.com, and they have released the 5 destinations for Aaron Rodgers to land. Now they have the Broncos at 5-2, 5-2, followed by the Steelers 7-2, Dolphins 9-2, Eagles 11-2, and the Browns 15-2. Well, I'm taking away the Browns and the Steelers for sure. I mean, Browns have their quarterback, and Steelers are rebuilding. Do you think that a 5-2 chance of odds for Aaron Rodgers to come to Denver is predicated by who the head coach is?
Probably, and I mean you also got to look at. I think you kind of got to take Miami off of that list too, because my assumption is they're going to bring in a head coach that can work with Tua. So
Okay.
I don't think they're gonna. Miami can get more out of not signing Rodgers than signing Rodgers because of how Tua played at the last part of the season and all the draft picks that they have that they can use to build on the team. So I don't think Miami goes with Aaron Rodgers either. Um,
Hmm.
I I don't even know if there are any teams that I mean, there are going to be teams that obviously are going to go all in on Aaron Rodgers, but I don't know what teams those would be. I mean, the Giants are basically out of the quarterback trade market because they said they're going to stand behind Daniel Jones. The Saints are in a rebuild. He's not going to go to the Saints. Um, I don't even know. Maybe the Texans, but again, that's a rebuild, and that's a
Mm-hmm.
bad rebuild.
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
I don't know what other teams would be in the market for Aaron Rodgers that he would actually go to.
Well, you brought up the Saints, and that's interesting because just yesterday, Sean Payton said he's stepping down as a head coach of the Saints. So that just throws, a cement mixer of things into New Orleans. I mean,
That's
on top of
that's
all the stuff they
because
have going.
that's because he knows that Rodgers is coming to Denver, so he's going to come to Denver and be there.
Hey, I would.
That's what that is.
Let me ask you: would you welcome a Sean Payton to Denver?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd welcome a Sean Payton, but
No,
I
he's not
think
coming. I know.
no, and I think he's going to be one of those coaches that like steps away for a year and then comes back.
Yeah,
Um,
could be.
I don't know.
I just thought it was interesting that that news broke yesterday. Quite interesting. How about the possible retirement? I know this is off Bronco talk, but how about the possible retirement of Tom Brady?
I think he will. And the only reason I say that is because they brought back all their starters last year on the Bucks this year, so that they
Mm-hmm.
make another run at the Super Bowl. Now you have a whole bunch of players that are on 1-year contracts that are going to need to get re-signed, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that they can afford to do it. So you look at the Bucks and where they're going to be. You have no idea if they're going to have Godwin anymore. You have no idea if they're going to have Sue anymore. You don't know if they're going to have all like Gronkowski anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
all these players that have contributed to them winning the Super Bowl and getting back to the playoffs this year might not be there. And so now you're looking at Tom Brady with a small rebuild. I mean, he's 44 years old. Does he
True.
really want to do that again? I mean, it might be 3 years before the Bucks get back to the Super Bowl. And
Right.
at that point, he's 47.
Now, do you think George Payton would make a move? Let's just say, I'm just throwing this out there, that George Payton makes a phone call to
No,
Tom Brady's agent and says,
no,
"No, okay."
no, not even a chance.
I'm just thinking
No.
on the heels of a Peyton Manning, if Brady would like to do the same thing.
Well, and I was surprised he didn't walk off last year. Like, why would you? I understand like the need to compete and the love for the game and all that, but like you win your 7th Super Bowl, like just go,
Right.
just
Exactly. Exactly.
leave.
Nobody's going to catch 7 anyways. I don't see that. There's no chance.
No.
All right, let's switch over to ownership, and this is a twofold question. First part of the question is: does ownership need to be in place before the draft, or does it need to be in place definitely before the start of the season?
No, I don't think it needs to be. But it sounds like it's going to be done in March, is what I'm hearing. Um, I'm not exactly sure what's standing in the way right now. But it sounds like like the Broncos are going to go what they call an auction, which isn't entirely the same thing as a real auction. I'm basically, it just means it's going to the highest bidder. It's not, the group can't select which owner they want. It's whoever bids the most. Um, so I don't, honestly, ownership I don't think really matters that much when it comes to the draft, when it comes to roster, when it comes to the coach. Because that, I mean, George Payton's got that figured out. The owner is more for helping the NFL and the other owners to hear what fans are saying. So like the owner is kind of like the medium between owners and the fans. And so like for example, last year when we had Hinton play quarterback,
Oh wow, that was a mess.
that would have been where the owner would come in and be like, listen, the this is what we're seeing, this is
Mhm.
what we shouldn't do. And we didn't have that. And so that's why we ended up having, I mean, obviously there was more behind it. But
Right.
that, for example, that's what the owner's relationship with the fans is. They're the mouthpiece for the fans to the other owners. And they look after all the business interests and the money and all that, like the retail and merchandise and all that stuff. So as far as the roster goes, no ownership. It doesn't really have anything to do with it.
Okay, well, when it comes to selecting a head coach, an offensive coordinator, and all of that, I've heard that Elway and Ellis are part of that group. Now, I also heard too that they're a distant, like for maybe consultation or whatever. But I'm kind of wondering why they would have their hands in the cookie jar, so to speak, when they have one foot out the door.
Well, Ellis is basically there finishing his job. I
Mhm.
mean, I think Ellis's main motivation right now is to not leave the team worse than when you took it over. So that's why he's still involved minimally. Elway is involved, but I think he's involved more of a ownership aspect. Like he's looking at it like I'm trying to buy the team, so I want to stay involved. But when I say involved, like with the coaching search, they were there on a Zoom call
Mhm.
and available for questions after the interview was done. Like they didn't really have anything to do with the interview.
Okay.
I mean that's still George Payton's thing, um, and basically at this point it's Ellis is running the business and Elway's there for consultation if they have questions. That's it. There's really nothing else going on. It was the same thing during the season. All those roster moves that were made, trades that were made, Elway and Ellis didn't really have anything to do with it. It was Payton. So
Yeah.
same thing now. Payton's running the coaching search, and then Ellis and Elway are there for advice. That's it.
Well, that's a good thing to hear because I definitely want George Payton to be the front, the front and center of things moving on. So that's what I was concerned about because of Elway's track record and all of that. Um, on any other front, do you have any other?
I think
Uh, uh, where'd you go? All right,
I'm
I'm
still
gonna
here.
this solo and hopefully you come back on.
I'm still here.
It said I lost connection. That was a bad thing. Anyways, hey, when you're flying by the seat of your pants and you don't edit things like this happen, and so that's just how I roll. Anyways, is there a topic or a subject that you want to touch on before we wrap this thing up?
One, and we kind of went over it earlier, but not like fully into depth. Like when you look at the coaches that we could bring in, and I'm just
Mhm.
going to say Quinn and Hackett, for example. When you bring in a Nathaniel Hackett, the first thing that comes to mind is Aaron Rodgers.
Mhm.
Well, you also are thinking, okay, well, if Nathaniel Hackett comes over, there's a possibility that Devontae Adams might come over. There's also the possibility that Robert Tonyan comes over. Because let's say, for example, that we're going to trade for Aaron Rodgers.
Mhm.
Why would you not include Noah Fant in that trade? So
Hmm.
we lose Fant, but we gain Tanyan. Because I
Yeah.
would much rather trade Fant than trade Judy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So if we can have Sutton, Patrick, Judy, Hamler, Devontae Adams,
Ooh.
and then have Albert Okuebanam and Robert Tanyan with Aaron Rodgers and Javonte Williams, I'm down. I'm
Oh,
sold.
absolutely.
So it's not so much what whether Hackett can bring in Rodgers, it's who else can he bring in
Mhm.
that we're not thinking of. Same thing with Quinn. Like if we bring Quinn in, what other players can we get? The first name that pops into my mind is Randall Gregory from
Right.
the Cowboys. What if he's a free agent? What if he follows Quinn to Denver? Well, there's your edge problem solved.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's
Absolutely.
it's not it's not so much like what quarterback can Hackett bring in. It's what other player can he bring in that we're not thinking of. Like all the Green Bay free agents that might want to follow him over.
Mhm. Well, what about O'Connell? Who could he bring over? I would love to
Oh,
have. I would love to have. It's not going to
Von
happen.
Miller can come
I
back.
was just going to say that very thing.
Well,
But I don't.
and that's the weird thing is because there was that story on Twitter. I don't know if it's a story on Twitter, but that the tweet on Twitter that was asking would Denver have won as many games if Von Miller had stayed on the Broncos and played the way he did against the Rams? And here's the problem with that. The pass rush from Von Miller wasn't the
Mhm.
game-changing pass rush we're used to. The
Right.
defense changed when Von Miller got traded.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that the team would have been worse with Von Miller, and or that I'm glad he's gone. I'm not saying that at all.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is I believe we probably would have ended up in the same situation we are now because we won games based on defense when Miller left because we had a change in attitude, we had a
Mhm.
change in leadership, and we had a change to the younger guys on the team. If Von Miller had stayed, yeah, we might have enjoyed a little bit better of a pass rush, but at the same time, you wouldn't have gotten the same inside linebacker play. And so I think Denver would have continued to get torched just every play in the run. So we probably would have ended up in the same spot, whether we had Miller or not.
Right. And
Plus, we
I
got a
would.
second and a third out of it.
Exactly. Exactly. I have to agree with you 100%. I saw an attitude change in the defense. I mean, they seemed to me to be more cohesive. When Miller was there, it was all talk about Miller. Why is he not doing this, or how come he doesn't have this um, effect that he had, 2, 3 years ago. And I think a change of scenery, a change of location, obviously playing with O'Donnell certainly helps. Um, but I did see the younger guys on the Broncos absolutely step up, and I think that was a good thing. I think that was absolutely a good thing. I think it's going to be a great thing moving forward because you don't have that microscopic focus on one player. It's now back to a team defense, and like I said, I think that's a great thing. As
Yeah,
far as go ahead.
well, I was gonna say we've got a defensive roster that's full of flexible talent. So whether you have Dan Quinn, whether you have Vic Fangio, and they run different schemes, I don't think it really matters because our defense isn't predicated on scheme; it's predicated on strong talent. So I think no matter what defensive coordinator comes in here, we're still going to have strong defense.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you mentioned defensive coordinator. Has do we need a head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator? How about our
I
special teams? Do we replace him?
Who do you want? Tom McMahon to come back?
No, 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 no,
I
no.
my
Stop. Time out.
my my assumption was that if we got Dan Quinn, we'd probably get Joe Witt. But
Mhm,
I don't
mhm,
know if Joe Witt is going to leave. I'm more looking at, and this is just my opinion,
mhm.
and based on history working together, is if we get Dan Quinn, we might get Raheem Morris. the defensive coordinator
Mm.
from the Rams. Now
Well,
I
that'd be
get
good.
I know he's a defensive coordinator now,
Mhm.
and they don't like lateral moves. But at the same time, there are plenty of stories out there that Raheem Morris and Sean McVay do not get along.
Oh,
And
really?
so it would not surprise me if Raheem Morris was like, "I'm stepping down," and then went to the Broncos.
That would be a great move. That would be an absolutely great move. Um,
Yeah, and Raheem Morris worked with Dan Quinn in Seattle. So again, another Legion of Boom like
mhm.
piece.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards you that it's going to be a Dan Quinn head coach. I understand the process of bringing in, um, bringing in a Hackett and bringing in an O'Connell because you're doing your due diligence. You don't want to shoot from the hip. You don't want to hire a coach quick and then look back and regret it, like we did with Fangio, like we did with uh, Joseph.
Yep.
That's just I appreciate the
Hey,
fact
there's
that he's
always
taken.
Vance Joseph as defensive coordinator. Bring him on back. He can be the the defensive
Yeah.
coordinator.
I don't want to go backwards, man.
And then if something happens to Quinn, you have interim
No,
coach
no, no.
Vance Joseph stepping up.
All right, we're done. No. Oh my gosh, that would be something. That would really be something. Now, there's rumors. I know this is off Bronco stuff, but it has to do with the AFC West. There's rumors that Josh McDaniels is going to be courted by the Raiders. If that happens, do the Raiders get better with him, stay the
if
same,
that
or get worse?
if that happens, the Raiders will automatically every year be the last place team in the AFC West. We've seen a Josh McDaniels as a
Yes, we
coach.
have. Yes, we
They're
have.
more than welcome to have him. You can take him all you want. I honestly don't think Josh McDaniels leaves, and the reason I say that is because I do believe Josh McDaniels has stayed around the Patriots so much because he's going to be taking over when Bill Belichick leaves, and
Mm.
I think that Bill Belichick he's pushing his 70s, so with the high stress job of coaching in the NFL, you've got to think he's getting close to
Yeah.
retiring at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, what else does a guy need to do?
Exactly. Exactly. But Belichick is a stubborn old guy, man, and he's just going to stick around until he's had enough. And you could be right. He could only have another year or two. I think he wants to go out with a championship. I think he wants to go out with a turn the page over Brady kind of thing, to go out with a younger quarterback. That's what I'm thinking that he's looking at. I could be wrong, but that's how I see it. But I think you're right with McDaniels sticking around.
Yeah, I mean, he might be trying to separate himself from Brady's legacy. I mean, right now Belichick hasn't won anything without Brady, so
Exactly.
we'll see.
Exactly.
But I mean, how long is that going to take is another thing. Because I
Yeah.
mean, when you had the Patriots at the height of Brady, name another All Star player they had on the team.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Randy
Yeah.
Moss for 1 year.
Hmm.
And so they've always had good draft classes, but Tom Brady covered a lot of holes. And you saw that when Brady left and they brought in Cam Newton.
Hmm. Yeah.
So you got to think that Belichick has 3, 4, 5 more years left, and then he's
Right.
done. So me personally, I think McDaniel stays just to see if he can take over for the Patriots. We'll see. But the only thing that terrifies me is that the Raiders are going to make a play for Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson.
Hmm.
They're going, even if they keep Derek Carr, they're going to go after Harbaugh, and they're going to bring in Vic Fangio as defensive coordinator. I don't like that. I don't. No, that's not
No, no,
okay.
no, no. That's not okay.
You are allowed 1, not 3. So take your
Yeah.
pick. You can't have all 3.
I totally agree. That would be an absolute nightmare. I mean, with let's say we got Mahomes in Kansas City, you have Herbert with the Chargers, and then you bring in an Aaron Rodgers or Wilson on the Raiders along with Fangio. That would be a death nail. Absolutely
Yeah.
death nail.
Nope, not doing that.
No, no, we're gonna put a squash to that right now. Hear that, Raider fans? That's not happening.
You're not allowed.
Exactly. But Dungus Creevy, it's been a joy. It's been a pleasure. Thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate it. Go ahead and before we go out, go ahead and promote the MHRT network and everything that's associated with, and we'll go out with that. How's that?
Sounds good to me. So yeah, I'm part of the MHRT network, which, by the way, Mister that way, Bill over here. That's like right arm. Nope, left.
Exactly.
Bill, we're actually going to be bringing on his show, Broncos Breakdown, every Wednesday. It's going to be posted on the MHRT network. We also have your MHRT podcast, which is the very first one. That's the one we started it with.
Nice.
That's on Tuesdays, streaming live at 7654 on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. And then Thursdays, we have the Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue podcast. And that's same time, 7654 on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. And then starting right after the Super Bowl, we're going to have Isaiah. He's going to have his own, I guess we'll call it his own show, which kind of terrifies me, where he's going to be reviewing potential draft picks and free agent picks the Broncos could make in the offseason. The show's called Rough Draft, and that's going to – I think we'll probably post that on Mondays. I'm not quite sure yet, but we'll have basically every day of the week covered. So make sure you're tuning into that. You can follow me at Broncos Wizard on Twitter, or just MHRT Network on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all those. It's MHRT Network everywhere.
Nice. And guys, remember, tune in to Tuesday, tune in to Thursday, watch the show on Wednesday that's going to be recorded each week on Broncos Breakdown, hosted by Bronco Bill. Thanks again, Mundungus. It's been a pleasure. Enjoy. Hopefully your kids get better and you don't catch whatever they have. Thanks a lot, guys, for watching. Thanks for subscribing. We will talk to you next week on Broncos Breakdown. Enjoy the playoffs this Sunday. We'll talk to you then. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.